One of the most common and surprising questions I get is, do doctors get paid to train in Australia? Hi there, I'm Dr. Anthony Llewellyn. I'm a real doctor. I am the career doctor. I'm here to help you with your medical career challenge, whether it be on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn or other platforms. So the purpose of this video is to provide you with an answer to the question, do doctors get paid to train in Australia? And I'm going to do that very shortly for you, but I wanted to also take the time to answer some related questions to this question, like, do international doctors get paid to train in Australia? And why do trainee doctors get paid in Australia? And do you have to pay to train in Australia? And going back to international doctors again, do they get paid differently in Australia? So please watch all the way through to the end to get all the answers to these topics. Now, I run a YouTube channel which has comments, obviously. I have also a very helpful blog site that has comments turned on. I run a Facebook group where you can ask questions, and I frankly have way too many other ways for people to contact me. So it's not surprising that I do get a lot of questions and queries on a daily basis. And one of the surprisingly to me common and interesting questions that I do get from a lot of doctors from other countries is, do doctors get paid to train in Australia? Now, being paid for work is part of our culture in Australia, but I am aware that in other systems you may not necessarily be paid when you train in parts of medicine, or you might even have to pay for your training. So let's try to clear up this question once and for all before giving you a more detailed explanation, along with answering some of those related questions that come up around this particular topic. Doctors do get paid to train in Australia. From the time after you graduate from medical school, which I'm calling studies in Australia, you will be entitled to and will receive payment for your services working as a doctor. So this includes any further career stage which might be referred to under the label of training. So you get paid to be an intern, you get paid to be a resident medical officer, and you get paid to be a registrar, which is what most doctors who are undertaking specialty training in Australia are referred to as. Therefore, you also get paid when you're doing surgical training, physician training, psychiatry training, emergency training, general practice training, etc. And of course, you also get paid when you become a specialist doctor or consultant, often quite handsomely, as I've pointed out in other videos. Although in some cases you may now be working for yourself, in which case I guess you can not pay yourself, but you're probably paying yourself out of the revenue that you collect yourself. So why do doctors get paid to train in Australia? The answer to the question of why doctors get paid whilst training is that these doctors are performing real and substantial services in the roles that they are in.
Yes, this is very important. Yes.
So like in other professions in Australia, such as say engineering or the law or accounting, after you obtain your basic qualifications through a university degree, you move into a workforce position. But you are still learning, it's just that you're now learning on the job, and you may well do additional formal training and obtain additional qualifications to improve on that expertise. So in postgraduate medical training, the training is on top of the work you do or embedded into this work. For example, you are training when you're assisting a surgeon to perform an operation and having an opportunity to learn about that operation and even practice elements of it. At this career stage, doctors are generally not taking large amounts of time away from the clinical work that they are doing or the workplace to attend things like lectures and seminars or workshops, etc. Much of the training actually occurs within the workplace, and a lot of the additional studying occurs in the doctor's own time after work. And doctors also have to pay for a lot of this training. Hang on, what's that? You just said that doctors get paid to train, but now you're saying they're also having to pay for training. What's up with that? Well, doctors do get paid to train in Australia, but there are some costs associated with being a trainee doctor in Australia. There are, of course, the normal regular costs of being a doctor, like paying your medical registration every year and paying to have a car so you can get to work. But there are also some specific costs associated with being a trainee doctor. As an intern, you generally won't have any particular extra costs associated with your training, as the training will normally be provided exclusively for you by the hospital. At the next stage, the resident medical officer stage, however, you will probably be thinking about paying for some additional training yourself. For example, for courses that might help you get into a particular training program. So things like emergency courses and anatomy courses and radiology courses and the like. As a specialty trainee doctor, you'll definitely have to pay things like college membership fees. You may also have to pay for a formal education course, and you'll have to pay the SIT examination. Personal costs for training as a trainee doctor in Australia can rack up to several $1,000s and even pass into the tens of thousands of dollars range throughout a full training period. But this is generally over a significant period of time of around 5 to 10 years. So for example, for psychiatry trainee doctors, there are a number of additional costs. Firstly, with the college, there's an initial registration fee that is currently $702 Australian. There is also an annual trainee fee that is $1,864 Australian dollars for a full-time trainee. And then there are several fees for sitting exams and submitting assessments that you can see outlined here on this page. On top of this, psychiatry trainees are expected to attend a formal education program for their Stage 1 and Stage 2 training. There's 3 stages in psychiatry. And a number of the advanced training programs, which occur in Stage 3, also expect you to attend a formal education program. So some psychiatry training programs provide this to you for free, but in many cases there is a charge. As an example, the HETI Psychiatric Medicine postgraduate course is $3,000 for a 3-year course for New South Wales doctors. But this is probably one of the cheaper options available, and some of them are in the thousands of dollars per year. Psychiatry trainees will often pay additional money for things like examination preparation courses, as do many other specialty trainees. PsychScene is one of the popular organisations providing exam prep courses in psychiatry. So here's an unsolicited shout out to my colleague Sanil Rejo, who runs PsychScene. PsychScene offers various live and online courses starting from $595 Australian. So, what does all of the above mean for international medical graduates, or IMGs? Do IMG doctors get paid to train in Australia? Well, the answer is if you're an IMG doctor and you get appointed to any training position in Australia, whether this is a resident position for the purposes of completing the standard pathway process, or a specialty training, registrar type position as part of any of the following competent authority pathway, the specialist pathway, or the short-term training in a medical specialty pathway, you will get paid. Now, whilst wage theft and the exploitation of overseas workers in Australia has become a real concern here over the past decade or so, I'm not aware of any such situations that have involved international medical graduates. If you do know of such a circumstance, I would be interested to hear from you. You can put something in the comments below. The answer to whether IMG doctors get paid differently to Australian doctors is a more complicated question to answer. As a general rule, if you're an IMG doctor and you are recruited to a position, you will be paid under the same classification as any Australian doctor who is also doing the same job as you. So, for example, you are appointed to a resident position, you'll be paid as a resident. However, for most classifications, there are steps or levels that increase based on your years of experience. So sometimes the employer may try to start you out at the bottom of this classification scale, even though you may actually have more experience. And the reason they might say for that is that you don't have any experience in Australia. So in this case, you may end up being paid slightly less or maybe significantly less. So for example, in New South Wales, if you got appointed to an RMO position, and let's say you already have 10 years experience in your own country, you might be offered to start off as a first-year resident rather than a fourth-year resident, in which case there's going to be a significant pay gap difference of almost 30,000 Australian dollars per year. Thankfully, in my experience, however, most employers in Australia will try to recognise your overseas experience and pay you at a reasonable rate if you are eligible for it. But this is a grey area in terms of what is the correct thing to do, so it's definitely worth querying things if you feel that you have ended up on the wrong end of the stick. And I would be interested in hearing from any doctors, either trainees or overseas, in the comments below if they've been given a poor pay deal at any point in time. Also, whether you are an IMG doctor or an Australian trained doctor, remember that I have lots of helpful resources over on the Advanced Med main blog site, as well as services to help you out on my services site, which is my.advancedmed.com.au. Please subscribe and follow, it really helps me to get these videos up, and I will see you in another video.